If someone came up to you and asked you, how do I become a Christian? Or how do I go to heaven when I die? Would you be able to answer them? Would you be able to give them an answer that is simple, concise, or that would make sense? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Dylan, and this is Spoken Scripture. Uh, if you watched my last video, you'll know that I recently graduated college, which is super exciting, but also super nerve-wracking. I also mentioned in that video that I'm starting a new job very soon. So my first big boy job out of college, I start on Monday. And in order to kind of mentally prepare and mentally rest for that big change, after my graduation ceremony on Sunday, I came home with my family to stay at my parents' house for a few days. So that's where I am right now. I am at home. I've been at home for the past 2 days. I've just been resting a lot, playing a lot of Mario Kart by myself, weirdly enough, because no one's really been home. And yeah, like I said, just resting, enjoying my my downtime before my life picks up again, and trying to soak that in the best I could, or the best that I can, I should say. I was thinking about my last video and thinking about what I wanted to talk about for another video, and I thought to myself, what's more important than any sort of application that we can put on our lives to make our lives better? Uh, what's more important than if we were to take a step back? What's a foundational thing that's really, really important to get across about being a Christian? And it was like, duh, the gospel itself. Um, there are so many people that would call themselves Christian, but they wouldn't be able to explain the simplicity of the gospel that saves us. Maybe you can think of someone in your own life where they would call themselves Christian either because someone in their family is, or because that's just culturally acceptable here in the United States. Or maybe you're from another country, maybe. Or maybe that applies to yourself. Maybe you would call yourself Christian, but if you were to truly examine your heart and your motives and the way you are when no one else is around, or what you do on the weekends, or whatever it may be, maybe you would call yourself Christian, but you'd realize that you're actually not at the heart level. So I don't say that to scare you. I don't say that to scare anyone. Um, it is a sobering reality to think that there are people out there who think that they are a saved Christian, but they're actually not. But I don't want you to have to fear that about yourself. If you thought of someone in your life who maybe that applies to, maybe this is sort of a wake-up call to share the gospel with that person. I would hope that you would be able to check your heart against this simple message today, and that you would be confident in your salvation and in your ability to share it with other people. So, without further ado, let's talk about the gospel. What is the gospel? The word gospel translates to good news. I'm sure many of you knew that already, but it translates to good news. And when the word was first used before its current use in describing the Christian gospel, the gospel would be the news that people in a kingdom would receive when the army was out somewhere, maybe fighting a war or discovering a new land or something. And then when the army was coming back and they had good news to share about a battle that was won or whatever, they would bring the gospel. They would bring good news. And that application fully fits here, I think, with the Christian gospel. The gospel is the story of a king, and it's the story of a kingdom, and it's the story of a battle that has been won. Maybe you've never thought of the gospel that way. I know from my own experience here, especially in the United States, when we talk about the gospel, it is so easy to talk about it in terms of ourselves. Um, the gospel is the story about how God loves me and saved me from my sin. Uh, I don't want you to hear me saying that and to think, well, is that not true? No, that's definitely true. Uh, God does love you. He did send Jesus to die for you and to save you from your sin so that you could be in paradise with him someday. That is totally true. But when that's the only part of the gospel we cling to, we miss a huge part of it. We miss a huge part of it. The gospel was never solely about us. The gospel is about the king and what the king did and the battle that he fought and won. So, to start all the way back, we're going to go super simple here because, like I said, this is more important than any application that we could have for the any sort of Christian teaching. This is foundational stuff that if we don't have this, it doesn't make any sense to try to apply other things to to improve our lives. Just doesn't make sense. So, starting all the way back, why do we need good news? Well, we have to understand that there there is a God. There is a God who is perfect and good and righteous and just and full of love. And he's a relational God, so he made humans to be in relationship with. Humanity is the climax of the creation story. God makes the earth and the animals and the plants, and then he makes humans. And he says, humans, you were made in my image. And that puts humans on a much different pedestal compared to the rest of creation. Humans are made in the image of God, the image of a God who loves them, who wants a relationship with them, but also a God who is supremely and perfectly righteous. And then what does humanity do? They screw it up. They disobey God. They do the things that he says not to do. And because of that, they don't have the same standing with the righteous, perfect God anymore because they disobeyed him. They made a choice to disobey him. Now, one thing I want to add is if you aren't fully convinced that there is a God, this whole conversation isn't really going to be sitting in the right context for you. And I'm not going to talk today about arguments for there being a God. There are certainly many of those arguments, and I think there's plenty of evidence for there being a God. I also think you need a lot of faith to believe that there isn't a God. There's a lot of things that you need to put faith in that aren't for certain. But I would say if that's you, look into those things yourself. Search for the truth. I believe that searching for the truth is a good thing. And keep searching, keep asking questions. Your questions aren't too big for God. And pursue truth. That's a righteous and good thing to do. And then uh, once you've handled that question, then you can come back and watch the rest of this video. But what we have so far, there's a good God, and there's people who mess up their relationship with him. So God needs to make a way for the people to come back to their right relationship with him. And the plan that he devises involves punishment for the humanity's actions. Because the only way to make the wrongs right is to pay for them somehow. God decides that this payment needs to be in blood and institutes a sacrificial system where the people would take their best animals and kill them and sacrifice them in order to temporarily lift their bad off of themselves, lift off the sin from themselves. But then God decides that he wants to make a permanent solution so that the people don't have to constantly kill animals in order to get their relationship back. So he decides to die himself. He comes as a man named Jesus Christ to the earth, and this man, Jesus, lives a perfect life that no other human ever could, because Jesus is God and human. And then Jesus dies on the cross so that death could be defeated, that the sacrifice could be made, and that the debt could be paid. But it doesn't stop there, because in God's power, Jesus rises from the dead and finishes the act of redemption. Then he says, once he's resurrected, that the rules have changed. Because this sacrifice has been made, now what you need to do to get your relationship with God back is you just need to believe that Jesus is who he says he is, and that he did what he said he did. And that became the rules. Believe in Jesus. As simple as that. It's really common for people to say, oh yeah, I believe in God. I believe in God. I'm going to heaven. I'm a Christian. I found God. And while I don't think people are being disingenuous when they say that, it's possible that they're missing the point. The point isn't just to acknowledge that God exists, or that even that he loves you. It's not even to acknowledge that it's the same God that Christians follow that is the one that exists. The central question is Jesus Christ. Like, do you believe that Jesus is who he says he is, and that he did what he said he did? Do you believe that he lived a perfect life, that he died on the cross, and that he rose again in power? Do you believe that Jesus is God? That is so important. And if you don't get anything else from that, from this talk, that is the question. That is the sole question of the gospel. Do you believe that? So important. So important. So now that offer has been extended to us, that all we need to do is believe, then it's our job to respond to that offer. We respond to that offer, like I said, not by just acknowledging that it's true, but by, in our heart of hearts, believing that that's true. Romans 10:9 says, "If you declare with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved." So it's as simple as that. Do you believe it? Do you believe it? Do you confess it? That's the gospel. The gospel is not anything that we could do to earn our salvation. The gospel is not, I go to church a lot, or I do a lot of good things, or I'm nice to people. Uh, the gospel is not, I'm really good at helping old ladies across the street. Um, the gospel is not, I'm a good person. The gospel is actually, I'm not a good person, and because of that, I need Jesus and his death and resurrection for my salvation. It's so interesting balancing I'm a sinner and I've been made in the image of God. Both those things are true. So it's I don't want you to think, "Ah, I am so broken that I'm not worthy of God's love." Yes, you are broken, and yes, you are worthy of his love. That's the beauty of the gospel, that we have been given something that we do not deserve. We deserve death on a cross and separation from God forever. But we've been given what we do not deserve, and that's grace. So, how will you respond to this gift? Will your life be a reflection of a heart that believes that this is true? Or will this simply be a thing that you acknowledge, maybe that you acknowledge that it might be true, but not enough for it to actually seep down into your roots and impact your very being? Hmm. What will you do with that? What will you what will you do with this message? I want to encourage you all. This gospel truly is good news. There is a kingdom that is yet to come and has already come and is here, that we have an open invitation to be a part of. That not only can impact our lives currently as we live, that not only can give us hope and a future and allow us to love others here on earth, but also give us hope for a future in heaven with God and with uh, our family forever. That is incredible, and something that honestly, like, I don't even really understand. Um, but I'm looking forward to it. And if that is something that you know is in store for you, and it changes how you live, it has to. It just has to. It's so important. So, next time someone asks you, what is being a Christian? Or how do I know if I'm going to heaven when I die? I think your answer should be simple. Your answer should be, you become a Christian by believing in Jesus, that he is God, he is who he says he is, and that he did die and resurrect to defeat death and offer that victory to you too. It doesn't get better than that. So I I hope and pray that that would be a foundation for you, that off of that you would be able to build and keep learning and keep growing for the rest of your life. And if you already know that, I hope that this was a great reminder and a great encourager for you to think about that as well. So, with that, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will catch you next time. Thanks.